All right. Connecting here. This will be the first time that we are actually using Instagram as well. So it's taking me just a little bit to check some settings here, folks. Hit live on Instagram now. So apologize for the little lateness here. We're connecting, it looks like, on Instagram. Awesome. It does look like it's live. I can't really see too much, but good to go. Hey, everybody. Coach Dennis Stoika here with Modern Era Warriors. Welcome back for another amazing podcast. I am here with Sam. Sam is one of two. Sam Romanzo, by the way. He is one of two in a company, SNS Tactical. His partner, Sean Sullivan, couldn't make it on today. All good. But Sam is here to represent the team. Let's talk about his purpose, his passion, his principles. Talk a little bit for Sully, his partner, as well, and to talk to you guys about what they do, right? We're always bringing on like-minded people, and they got something truly really cool to share with everybody, which is a firearms training, tactical type training, right, in the home as well. So I can't wait to discuss this with you. We'll be on for about 30 minutes as always, or with our little coffee talk. Hey, I'm going to turn it back over to you, Sam. Tell me, who is Sam? What is your purpose, passion, and principles? And if you want to add a little bit for Sully today too, and then we'll move on after that into the business of things. Go for it.
Sure. Yeah. Well, first, Dennis, thank you very much for having us on, man. We appreciate it. We do. And it's been a pleasure to meet you, to get to know you and find out about all the really cool things that you're doing and that you're up to, because it's always good to meet like-minded people, you know. And so myself, my main focus my whole life has been martial arts training. Got into it when I was very, very young, and that has sort of taken my life in all sorts of different directions up until this point. I just turned 50 last year, and been steeped in the martial arts since I was about 14 years old. And yeah, that's taken me from to a lot of different countries, to moving to Japan right after college to keep studying martial arts in Japan, to competing in different countries, and even when I was 19, getting to go to Russia to compete and have that whole experience, and in Japan, and heading to Europe, heading to the Caribbean. So it's been cool. Met a lot of good people. Had my own first school opened in 1999, and just been off and running. And through the martial arts, meet a lot of interesting people, especially when we started working more with military personnel, law enforcement, and the people who do real work. I'm lucky. I get to spend a lot of my time in the dojo, where it's safe and happy, and get to work with the people who do the real stuff. But
hey, I'm gonna jump in there. I got to jump in there for just a second too, right? So I had someone recently, post on Facebook about tournaments and why you need tournaments, how it makes jiu-jitsu more of a reality. And I totally agree, right? Challenge yourself. I love all that, right? But
sure.
At the end of the day, it's still not what military and law enforcement do, right? If you're in a fight for your life, or you're fighting a couple people, or you're waiting for your partner to back you up, there's no one to throw in a towel, and there's no rounds, I should say. It's one single round, right? Until either backup gets there to help you, or get a person in handcuffs, or whatever's going on too, right? So kudos for mentioning that, actually, right?
Yeah.
So
no,
it's a different training environment to some extent.
Absolutely different, and it's very funny because I'm here running a jiu-jitsu school, right? Telling my jiu-jitsu students, guys, just make sure when we have to real world apply this, for the love of God, don't end up on the ground. And they're they're looking at me like, wait a minute, what?
Yeah.
And
I don't want to get too sidetracked either, but I want to stay on point a little bit too, but again, Sam, how many jujitsu schools, your own that you had, or other places that you've trained, during any instruction or rolling, do people work to getting up and getting away? How many
Very,
times? How
very
many
rarely.
times does that happen?
You're
Very
trying to keep
little.
them down.
Very little.
Yeah.
Yeah, very little.
Yes.
Very little. And there's
Absolutely. Yeah.
great there's great place for it, right? And we've seen
Right.
tons of videos, especially the last few years too, with people helping law enforcement too, right? Because law
Right.
enforcement does have to actually go into the fight, try to arrest people, etc. So for them, they do have to kind of hold somebody down. They can't just get up and get away.
Right.
But you can to go to another tool, right? An asp or some pepper spray or whatever else too, right?
Sure.
That it's needed to. It just doesn't have to be all hands on. So sorry to get a little distracted there, but had to
No.
jump
No.
in
It's
on some points that are
it's
key to me too in my world that I live in too, right?
yes.
So, yeah. Hey,
Yeah. No.
anything else on
Absolutely. I did.
purpose, passion, principles? I think we got that love for the martial arts.
Oh
You've been
yes.
involved
So
with it forever.
more than anything at this.
I lost you a little bit on the buffer there. Usually that doesn't happen. Go ahead, you're back. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Sure. Um, yeah. No. I love what I really love is you teach martial arts long enough and you start out focused on trying to create the toughest dudes you can create, and then after a while you realize like, okay, whatever. How about changing people's lives? That's some really important stuff, and that becomes the focus much more. Changing people's lives. How can I take what I know? How can I take what I've learned and package this up and give this to someone in a way that when they leave, or after months or years of working with me, you've had a tangible, positive impact on their life, and you've literally changed their life into a more positive direction. You've had real impact.
I'm gonna jump in there, right? Why? Because you see it in your life and how you live your life, and how martial arts is more than just in the dojo, right? It's more than just on the mat. Yes. It bleeds into all aspects of our life, whether that it's for us, it's reality-based self-defense, functional fitness, it's grappling, it's striking, it's firearms, right? Those are tools that we use for coaching at the end of the day. That's how I like to refer to it. It's because I do performance coaching as well, and those things that I just mentioned, right, are all tools that we use. And when you're having a hard time on the mat and you're fighting for your life, or you're doing some exercise with it, right? You overcome hardness and you understand defeat, right? And that bleeds into all aspects of our life, because life's hard too. So there's no doubt that you've experienced that yourself, and then you want to teach others what you've learned too, right? So fantastic.
Definitely.
Hey, so anything you can say? Anything you can say for Sully? I know he's not here, but you can speak for him too.
So here's how I met Sully.
Background.
Yeah, a lot of years ago. So I through the martial arts, again, getting tied in with certain people and meeting different connections, and I ended up over for a number of years in the Middle East myself. A lot of that as a trainer, and it was fantastic. You meet a lot of great people. And one of the guys I met was Sean Sullivan. We've known each other, gosh, going on about 20 years now. So he he grew up also in a dojo. His father ran a dojo out in California. So he grew up with traditional karate, taekwondo, judo, jiu-jitsu. He was one of the original Lions Den members. He fought MMA way back in the day when, it was, he was making $200 a night for a professional fight type of way back in the very beginning. And he went into the military, went the Green Beret route, spent number of years in the Green Beret, deployed. He's been deployed most of his life, actually. And he was with Third Group, so spent a lot of time in Africa. He ended up going to the Middle East. He got in was in the SIF teams for a number of years and got attached to CAG and did some really, really high-speed stuff. And it takes its toll also. I mean, it's makes a cool story, but it comes with a heavy price to do all that and to take the damage that comes with that on every level. And so fast forward 20 years and we're together in Virginia Beach, and he spent many years teaching people and training people. I spent all those years teaching and training people. And we said, what would be really nice.
Which leads us to which leads us to SNS Tactical.
Yes.
Right. All
Yeah.
right.
SNS tactical training. So
Segue into that. Right. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, that's perfect. So yeah, we said we would like to be able to do this tactical training, and but we want to similar with the martial arts idea. We don't want to just do, hey, here's some cool tactical stuff. Here's a cool tactical pistol, rifle, this, that. Here's how to clear a room. But more than that, to say, okay, how can we take all this experience, particularly all this battlefield experience, and roll it into something meaningful for the soccer mom and the IT dad? And how can we take all of that and say, yeah, we're going to work with you, and we'll take you through some firearms training or some empty hand training. But more than that, we're going to the very lessons that go into the tactical training, we're going to show you how those bridge into your everyday life, because you're going to run into more adversity in your everyday life. You're going to run into adversity every day at home, with the kids, with the family, at work. And I mean, the chances of a dynamic assault situation or a home invasion is very, very slim. It's good to be prepared for. Absolutely. Because that's a life-changing event if it ever happens. But we don't want to just train for that one event. We want to train for every day of your life. So we want to use the tactical training as a vehicle for, hey, here's how you approach life in general, not just here's how you approach this tactical situation. And
that's both.
Because one thing I said to Sully is, I said, look, Sully, you're one of the, sorry.
No, go ahead. I was gonna say that's both. When you say tactical, it's both firearms and self-defense, right? And I just want to make sure our listeners understand. I think you guys are having that conversation.
Those two
right?
should be blended. Yes, indeed. So I really wanted to take Sean's experience, especially his experience, because he spent so much time on the battlefield, and he made it out, from being shot to blown up to all the stuff that he went through and everything that he was involved in. It was a lot. I said, look, you're that guy that went through there and made it out. Let's take all of that and turn it into something really positive for anybody that we work with. Let's pull all the lessons out of there. And that's why we have a whole lessons learned section of the training that applies directly to the dynamic situation we're trying to deal with, and just everyday adversity in your life.
Yeah. What I'm hearing from you too, I love, because I have helped, first of all, I've had other operators on my podcast, amazing people, and they all have their own businesses doing things too, right? And some of them I have actually trained with before, helped them with their business. And some things are really cool and fun for that mom, that dad, the soccer mom, et cetera, right? The IT person, like you mentioned, to come to a course and do, right? But I've seen people, display and have people do, right, some crazy stuff that like is pretty advanced that operators would do, like infilling like into a house together with somebody else, the next filling, right? So, and I'm not saying that you can't do those things or practice those things, but I will say this, right? The basics done over and over and over again, well is advanced, right? And in general,
absolutely.
White to blue belt in jiu-jitsu is going to be your bread and butter, no matter what, right? Great, you can learn 1,000 moves, but your first 50 or 100 that you learn, and then how to defend those, are going to be your probably most used, right? As the Gracies evaluated the first 5 UFCs, they came up with their program. Again, there's a reason why you have white to blue, because they're the most common types of attacks. Same thing with our crowd, right? So in general, our levels 1 to 4 is like the basic program, right? It teaches the fundamentals, the building blocks, and then you from there you can go on to advanced stuff, right? But most of our classes still we're training basic stuff, and then we'll have an advanced day here or there, or we'll have some basics and advanced together. But you can never leave the basics behind, and you can't be so involved, right, with especially that new person, because it intimidates people, and you're giving them tools that they don't know themselves, right? not knowing, they're trusting you to give them the tools that they need in the right order, right? Too. So it's great to
Right.
hear that you guys aren't doing
Yes.
like you have a plan for people, and it's not so high level and crazy too, right? Hey, so
Yes.
um,
Absolutely.
you have civilian training and you have other training as well too, right? But I'd like to dive into the civilian
Yes.
training more, specifically that personal and family defense, the family unit. We talked a little bit offline before we
Yes.
scheduled this too, how like, going into someone's home can really bring a family together
Hmm.
too, whether, that's that 16-year-old girl or boy,
Yes.
that's starting to like, tempt mom and dad's authority in the house a little bit too, because I'm growing up, I'm leaving the house
Yes.
in a couple of years, whatever it might be too, right? So it's something that's safe for the family to do, right? To know what to do in a
Yes.
home invasion, if someone's going to the door when mom and dad aren't home, things of that nature too. But tell us a little bit about that, because what I think there's a lot of passion there, and to me, that's I have all that military and law enforcement experience too, but I'm out here teaching civilians because that's who needs it too, right? That's who needs it the most.
Yes.
Also, go ahead.
Yes. Absolutely. Yeah. This is well, actually this. I have a lot of fun when we do this training, and the first step is usually overcoming the misconception about what we do, because when you say, hey, we work with a family unit, we do some tactical training, right away they think, oh my goodness, you're going to teach me, my kids, how to run around with big guns and shoot everything. It's like, no, no, that's not actually what we're going to do. We're going to have your family learn basically how to communicate, together as a unit, and how to know what role to take if something chaotic really happens, whether it's
Mm-hmm.
an active shooter situation out in public or at the grocery store, it's a home invasion, it's a carjacking, any situation where we've got more than one person and something bad is happening. It creates chaos. A big chaos bomb goes off instantly. And we're trying to help this family learn how to put order back into that chaos. And
Mm-hmm.
with more than one person, we need communication. That's going to be a really big one, that everybody's communicating with one another, whatever that means or looks like, and that your role in that situation, instead of everyone's just running around
Mm-hmm.
doing whatever or freezing or not. Everybody knows what to do. They're taking trained, intelligent action. They're communicating and they're moving. So communication, movement, and some well-trained, intelligent action to take. And it's a way to try to put order back into that chaotic situation. So when we go into for a home, for example, the first step is we meet with the family together and we just talk with them for a little bit, because we need to get to assess, okay, what am I working with here? What type of personalities do I have? Backgrounds, fitness levels. What are your views on firearms or no firearms? Or, do you have weapons in the house or no? Do you store them correctly or not? I mean, we need to know some details. And then, but what we're trying to do also is get the family pulled together right from the beginning. And it's very, very interesting when you have teenagers in the mix, because they always start out aloof. Of course, it's like a teenager defense mechanism always, to just be very
Mm-hmm.
standoffish and aloof. And so right away, we're trying to break down walls, get the
Yeah.
family.
So one of the things, you have to experience this one, right? Because I get multiple calls a year from a mom or a dad, and they say, "Hey, I'd like to know more about your program. I want to get my son in it. I want to get my daughter in it. I want to get them some training before they go off to college with some private lessons,
Yes,
whatever that may be." And my first question back to them is, "Do you want it, or do they want it also?" And or, right?
yes,
And or,
yep,
because it's hard to teach a child that a parent wants some training and they could care less, right? So it
yes,
becomes it becomes difficult, right? Difficult.
yeah,
So and I also imagine, understanding the dynamic of the household too. Like, who runs the household?
yes,
I mean, you might have
exactly,
dad as a breadwinner, but mom runs the household, or it could be either way, or
yep,
they both do equally, right? Or whatever too.
yeah,
So understanding some dynamic of that too. And I'll finish, I guess, with this little part too, right? So all my students that I have, we have discussions about, if you're out and about at the shooter situation or your home, things of that nature. too, but they don't have me in their house, right? They could
Right.
if they want to and ask, right? Then just that's what you guys are doing, right? Because and even if they're not, right? If whether you take jujitsu, whether you take Krav Maga, if I hope again, I'm an integrated guy, right? So integrated warrior
Right.
training, and so I believe that for me and our students, what we promote is that reality-based self-defense, functional fitness, to be healthy, and just have some good grappling and striking knowledge, right? I don't need to be a black belt in jujitsu to survive violent confrontation,
Right.
and
Right.
because we don't want to stay in the fight, right? Um, but we have you might be the only one in the family doing that. Maybe your kid does it too. They're 8 years old,
Yes.
they're learning, right? They're young, so they're going to be of some help perhaps in a violent confrontation, right? Because the more you practice, right, you reduce a reactionary gap. I always say that you're practicing to reduce reactionary gap. So when the bomb goes off or your shots are fired or someone's breaking in the
Hmm.
window or the door, right, you go from color code white to red, et cetera, perhaps. So once you're in the fight, right, all these things. But so they have to teach their family members. Even if you're not, right, if you're just doing it yourself, you have to have some conversation with that family member still.
Yes.
So hey,
Yeah.
best case scenario, you're helping them breach that gap, right?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah.
And yeah, we're just trying to get the family to work together as a unit. And once we get into the training and they're having to know, because what we do is we explain to them, look, there's roles that you're going to take depending on the age. You're either going to be a defender or a supporter. The defender is the one who runs interference between the threat and the supporters. The supporter's job is to get to safety, but also to communicate so everybody knows where everybody's going. And we sort of go through
Mm-hmm.
whether you're going to a safe room or you're able to exit the house, and what to communicate depending on the role you're in. It's only 2 roles, and it's really simple communication. And we also go through and we train specifically for their home. We show them the best positions in their home. If you are the defender, the one who has to engage the threat, where in your home do you engage the threat? Let's take a look at your home. Here's some natural funnels. Here's where you can step behind to break up an attacker with forward momentum. Where's your environmental weapons if you're not a firearm person? Or where are your firearms in the house? And anyhow, we tailor the training for the specific home so they can look at their home a little differently and say, oh man, if something goes crazy in this household, I know all the very best positions that I can get to. And when we start running the scenarios and the family has to start operating and working together and moving and communicating and engaging the threat and escaping and getting to all this stuff, it's wild. I mean, all of a sudden that family's got to work as one cohesive unit. And and as we're doing all this, we try not to get too. I mean, it's a deadly serious situation. We're trying, especially if there's well, it depends on the family, but I'm not going in there talking doom and gloom and death, and we try to make it actually enjoyable for the family when they're working on this.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually want people having fun and making mistakes and goofing up, and we stop and we joke about it a little bit. Okay, let's run it again. Don't worry about it. And little by little, you see this family like working together, the kids, the teenagers, mom, dad, moving, communicating, laughing, making fun of each other because somebody didn't do it right. And come on, let's run it again. And as you know, like all sorts of crazy, goofy things happen during the practice time, during the stress training, while you're getting those mistakes out of the way. And that's where you start seeing look, if you step back, all of a sudden that family that when you had the first chit chat with them at the beginning and everybody was a little, kind of separate. Now they're having a blast working together, and it's like, boom, that's it.
And
there it is.
I can see how a family, right? If you're really into this, right, and you want your family to be safe, right? You can have this conversation with a newborn. I mean, they're not talking to the newborn, but like the family, if you will, right? The family, if you will, because the dynamic's going to change as the household dynamic changes, right? You might have a second child, a third child, someone else that you adopt, or a cousin that stays over, or whatever it might be, right? Or the summers, or maybe you only have your child certain times of the year because you're divorced, things of that nature too, right? So that family dynamic can change and the age can change, and the role may change eventually, right? From that 6-year-old who's the supporter, 8-year-old who's the
Absolutely.
supporter, to
Yes.
the 18-year-old who's now helping you actually do the defense
Right.
too, right? So, how,
Yeah.
um, what advice do you have for a mom, a dad, any other family member who's on the fence about needing or wanting your family defense training, right? What advice do you have?
Um, so I think my first advice is always to just, if you have a conversation with me, so that I can tell you what it is and what it's not, and what it is, what it's not. The misconception I try to always get around is, I'm not teaching violence. I'm not teaching your family how to be violent. I'm not going to I'm not going to change your kids into aggressive being, people that suddenly become aggressive. And I'm not here to promote I'm not here to promote firearms and try to make your family into a gun-toting family. None
Mm.
of that has any interest to me whatsoever. And it's more, what I'm doing is getting to know each family member individually, so that I can work with you best, have everybody work together as a cohesive team, and on the other end of the training, I want each family member to just feel more. I hate to use the word empowered because it's the most overused word,
Uh,
you
It,
know.
it was on my so it was on my mind.
Yep. Um, oh darn! I just freeze up there. Are we still there?
Ah, there we go.
Oh, there we go. Oh,
And I don't know. First time I've ever lost connection in 3 years doing this.
wow.
I already
Wow,
hit finish
lucky,
it.
lucky
Yeah,
us.
I unfortunately hit finish event on my other end, but we're still
Okay.
live. We're still live on all the channels.
Okay,
Hopefully,
cool.
I might have just have lost a little bit buffer, but hey, we're at our time anyways. I was just about ready to wrap
Yeah.
up. Well, we heard the word empowerment. If you heard me
Yes.
last, it was on my mind as well. It is a little
Yeah.
cliche, but it is fitting. So hey, Sam, we're gonna wrap it up.
Okay.
We're at the 30-minute mark. Tell everyone where they can find out more about SNS Tactical.
Sure. We're on the web at SNS, and it's the letters SNS, tacticaltraining.com. And you can find us on Facebook at SNS Training Team on Facebook. But yeah, it's good to go check out our webpage, snstacticaltraining.com. And then from there, there's a link to emails, phone numbers, and all that good stuff.
Awesome. Hey, thank you so much for being here. Greatly appreciate you. Wish you and your partner the best success in the business doing this. It's definitely a need that people need, whether they need, whether they want to, right, or to do this.
Right.
They have to go that extra mile sometimes, right? And I think they will learn a lot and get a lot out of the training. It's about finding time as that family unit too. I can imagine that that's sometimes an issue with everyone.
Sure.
Going to all these other things for kids and work and play and making dinner and all those great things that everyone has to do as a unit too. But hey, thank you so much for being here. I'm going to ask you to hold on for just a minute afterwards. But hey, everybody, thanks so much for being here. Train hard, train smart, train safe, train real, and train for life. We'll see you in the next one. Take care, everybody.